Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Well, this is a great show that I have today lined up because we always talk about innovation. I mean, some of the entrepreneurs we have on the show, all they can talk about is innovation, and we love it so much. And when you're able to innovate, you're able to make impact. And what we're talking about here is really innovation for impact, I call it. And of course, we've been able to bring on the show the Chief Executive Officer of PlazaBridge Group, and her name is Teresa Spangler. And I call her sort of the queen of innovation. I mean, she has a great passion for helping organizations innovate new products and solutions. She does such a great job. Her entire team is remarkable. Teresa, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
Thank you, Andy. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you. I mean, when we think about innovation, we think about strategies, we think about innovation to grow businesses. You're right in the middle of it all. Before we get started, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet and tell us about PlazaBridge Group, and then we're going to dive into it.
Absolutely. So PlazaBridge Group does focus on the growth side of business, which a lot of times is about innovating something new, looking for a new market, leveraging technologies in a new way, evolving your product strategy. But it's everything kind of net new to the business and giving you that ability for some sustainable growth. We're sort of future forward planners, thinkers, helpers, doers. I would say with a strong bent on, we love to focus on innovation for good. So things that are there that help humanity, help businesses, help people. So we do have a lot of focus on that area.
I love it. Humanity for good. It's so great. Now, there's a lot of companies and everybody, if you're in business, is looking for new revenue growth. Of course, you're looking for agility, innovation, digital transformation, creativity. I mean, these are all things that can make a business very secure in today's day and age. And this is an area that you do help many companies in as well. So let's talk about how you look at new revenue growth for your clients.
Well, a lot of times, when we're talking, the client knows that they want to get out of maybe a status quo that they're potentially in. We've had some real challenges, and the world of uncertainty is just caving on everyone. And so when you have that, your core team needs to stay focused. So many times, we're the resources that can come in and put attention on planning for the future and giving additional resources to the team so they can continue focusing on day to day. So that sometimes might be, maybe there's an innovation effort inside of a company. That might be a larger company and they have an innovation team and they need more resources, or they need validation or new ideas or organization to how, which one of these widget IP things should we spin out next? Then you have a lot of midsize and smaller startups don't have those resources, but the CEO knows we've got to look at next. And my team can't afford to just focus on anything that they're doing right now. So help us with next. Are we targeted to the right customers? Does our product need to scale with? Do we need to add AI? Do we need to have a whole new product? What do we need to do? And so we start a lot of times at the very, very basic. Where are you today? What's your current state? So we help them evolve that story by peeling the onion back. So that's many times. Sometimes I know exactly. And many, many times, and more than not, they need help figuring out. I know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, right? That. So we rarely get, I know what I don't know. It's, I don't know what I don't know.
Right. It makes sense, of course. And, you use analytics and you use data, a very rigorous, analytical mindset and data set to help your clients, of course. And one thing that you really specialize in is building value. And I love that so much. And, when you think about your clients and you think about sort of whether it's a go-to-market approach or a new approach to an existing situation. When someone reaches out to you, Teresa, what's that first phone call sound like? I mean, what are they saying? What's their big problem? Why are they reaching out to the company?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and I would say they're almost all the same but very different, right? So the core is there's so many priorities in the company, almost every company, right? There's so many priorities, but there is a need to get really tightly focused on our customer's next move. And so I think it's the concern that we know that we need to continue growing our customer base, but we don't necessarily know where they're looking at for the future. So how do we get ourselves planning our products in line with where the futures think, where the customers think they want to go? So that's a lot of the discussion. They know they want to grow their customers. They know they have great customers. Sometimes they know they need a new segment of customer, but it always centers in which we're really good at. Like what we do understand is customers and how they buy and what they're thinking and how to look at how they're planning, which is the most important part. And sometimes companies forget that part. We get so caught up in our own, wheel chase, and we love our products. That's great. We love them. But what about the customer?
Gosh, I'm so happy you said that because we talk about that. So many entrepreneurs, they talk about their technology and their business and their offering. You talk to them for an hour and they don't talk about the customer. I mean, that's unbelievable. Teresa, you've got a great article that's on your website. It's called Breaking the Paradoxes to Innovate for Good. And I love that. I mean, it's a great idea. Let's talk about that and why that's so important to you.
It's one, two, it's, one, it was, I wrote that as a chapter. I'm on the board of GameDay, which is the Global Institute of Innovation, and they're a certification organization. So that's a chapter in a book that we all, 7 of us wrote that were advisory board members. When we're going in, almost all the time when we're going in, innovation is at conflict with the resources needed for the ongoing business. I think we look at different kinds of conflicts. For example, if many years ago, we reviewed an entrepreneur that was 3D printing organs, ears, organs, heart, name it. And that's a reality. It can be done. The paradox is the regulatory world and getting it through medical approvals and compliances, and the vast challenges sometimes that when we're innovating, if we wait till the last minute to engage these people, we're going to be a long time coming before we get approvals potentially needed. So the paradox is, the paradoxes are there. Is it compliance? Are we dealing with people issues or fear? What are those things? So the opportunity is engage where we believe those challenge points are going to be very early from the idea on, so that they have input into it. And it's going to help a lot of entrepreneurs overcome potential roadblocks as you're going through this process of innovating something new. And there's so many different paradoxes. They're just, I've got examples in that article. But there's just so many different challenges you face when you are coming out with something brand new, disruptive or not. If it's new, people are a little shy for those things.
Yeah. And of course, if you have something new, the potential customer might not even know how it helps them. So you have to educate them about the offering and then sell it to them, right?
That's a whole, another discussion, right? That's a different paradox, getting customers adoption. The COVID vaccine is in a very similar circumstance, right? So it's the adoption of things. And so many, and we work with universities, professors, for example, that have brilliant inventions, but, you haven't tapped the adoption. What is it going to take for a human to want to buy this, or a company that can see the value of that? How are you approaching that? What do you know about that whole buy cycle? Many of especially in the medical world, if you've got a medical invention, you want to sell it to a hospital, the regulatory and the purchasing processes of hospitals are incredibly challenging. And you just can't go in and call the doctor and say, hey, do you want to buy this? And I think those are the things we really try to help our customers understand. So when we're working on an innovation project, if I can give an example, if that's okay, we will take it from maybe inception all the way to first customer so that we can design what that cycle looks like. What kind of salesperson do you need to actually sell this into this particular environment? What are those value propositions that are being heard by the customer that make sense?
Wow. You've unpacked it so beautifully. I mean, I'm going to have to rewind this myself just to listen to that again. I mean, there's so much great information. Now,
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question that I don't think I've ever asked on the show before to any of the entrepreneurs we've ever had on the show. And you're a prolific writer, and we've read some of your writings. They're fantastic. For the people that like, informative writing, go on Teresa's, website, follow her. She's got a book, of course, out there. You wrote an article, Business Survival Lessons from Hiking Mountain Trails. And here's the question. What can we learn? What can you teach the entrepreneurs about a bear alert and being prepared?
There's so many examples I can give you about hiking. Well, so, and my husband and I are prolific hikers. We've hiked the Camino de Santiago twice in Spain, and we live in bear country, so I have to check my cameras every day I go out my door in the morning. So, it's preparation. It's the thought of if you're going on a long journey. And an entrepreneurial endeavor, a business endeavor, is a long journey that you should prepare for the unexpected. And it's hard sometimes to do. So I think it's that anticipatory scenario building. So if, we didn't have bear spray when we were hiking. However, 3 bears land in front of my front door and they like to hike the mountain range behind us. So I now carry bear spray. I should have thought about that before. What other things could we do to be more aware of safety? If you're hiking long distances, where are the places you can stop and get clean water? It's all of these little planning things that sometimes we take for granted that the resources are going to be there, or this, the journey has been easy to this point, so why should I even prepare? And I think that's sometimes the falling point of an entrepreneur. I got venture money. I'm ready to go. Did you think about the milestones that the venture and your board are going to be looking for? Have you planned out what happens if you don't hit a milestone? Have you thought about the taxes on the first couple of million that you're going to make? These things are really important. And larger companies have been through this, but some of the smaller entrepreneurs that we work with really preparing for that. But even in larger companies, scenario planning, anticipatory for the unexpected. The agility that we've all gained over the last few years is fatiguing. So we're now battling fatigue with continuing to build this resiliency in companies that we need.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm just, sort of mesmerized as you're talking. There's so much more to unpack. I'm going to have to bring you back on the show for a full hour. Now, let's talk about this. Because we touched on it earlier, but I think it's so important. And since I have you on the show, I want to really get into it a little bit more deeply. Sure. One thing that you say, people are at the center, technology is the co-pilot. Let's unpack that a little bit, because again, that goes back to so many entrepreneurs and startup founders. They're all, driven by their AI and, they're trying to build robots and everything else. But sometimes they forget about putting people at the center. So let's talk about that.
It's true. The human psyche is delicate, and we forget that. And you think about what we fear with AI and jobs. Yet I'm going to introduce, and an example is a conversational chat application that maybe lives in your pocket and helps to be a coach and guide because it's got a lot of the knowledge that a psychologist or a business coach might have on it. Well, what does that do to all the coaches out there? How are they thinking about that? what's the trust that how are you going to build trust with users? And we forget that those people are the ones that we want to learn from, we want to engage and educate, we want to make them feel comfortable. And if we haven't addressed the security and the privacy things up front, which a lot of times is an afterthought for technology companies, if we aren't cautious and really think through these things and help to ease the fears that humans have, they're the user, they're your customer, they're the buyers, whether it's in a business to business, sell, or it's a human consumer sell. We are the people that will enable you to be successful. So engage us more, help us alleviate the fear of what you're doing, and ask us questions.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, one thing about asking questions is you like to give answers. And on your website, I mean, you have such incredible, white papers and so much information that people can download. I mean, you have a great guide called how CEOs can increase profitability through critical decision making. That's just one of them. I mean, anyone can go to your website, get all this information for free. So I want to talk to you about that, because one thing that's very apparent about what you're doing and what PlazaBridge is really all about is that you like to help people, right? Yes. It almost seems like your entire business starts with this whole idea that I'm going to help people, and after I help them, good things are going to come to me. So let's talk about that. Where did that idea, that philosophy come from in your life, Teresa?
It's not an idea or philosophy. It's how I grew up. I mean, my parents and my husband's parents, who's in the business with me, we are grounded in wanting to help people. I mean, it's why we're on this earth, I believe. If we're not here to foster and inspire and to help people through, challenges or good times or be, community, it's not worth anything to me. But going into a company, when the psyches are delicate inside a company. So when you're bringing in teams to potentially do something brand new, people get nervous. And so we've taken a mentoring role in the work that we do so that we're not having people feel like their backs are against the wall. I mean, companies, especially in the technology field, we're, a lot of times throwing out people like popcorn. It's like, well, hire and firing. So if we can help educate and mentor someone into a role to understand how to deliver their value better, we've done our job. We're not there to stay forever unless we'll continue. We have to continue adding value, but we can mentor new product people. We can mentor the innovation efforts. We can mentor teams to be performing at a much more productive level. We can mentor you on how to go get these customers or to think about it. And that's just inherent. It's an inherent thing that all of us and people that work for us gravitate to that same culture and desire. We're creative. We like to problem solve, but at the center of all of it is the people and what we can do to help them.
Yeah, I love it. What comes across, obviously, is you and your team, you're very compassionate. And there's this old saying, the more you give, the more you get. And I really feel that you just want to give, and then you get in return in an infinite amount of, things that come back to you. Before I let you go, I want to talk about the PBG labs. Okay. Those are the labs where you really help simplify and the design of various products. You sort of help the integration and delivery of new products. Let's talk about the labs. What's the labs all about? And why do people reach out to you and they say, hey, Teresa, we've heard about the labs. We want in.
Well, it's our playground. It's where we can, bring different technologies together and integrate them and play. And so sometimes it may be that we have done so many things in our lab with different customers, and we can ourselves put different kinds of products together based on our knowledge and experience, but it helps to influence what we might do inside of a customer. So the labs has been a real more of an inspiring thing that when we're in a customer, we can talk about some of these things we've done in the lab and how they might influence a new idea, a new product, or technologies that we're working with, or a product that we're working with inside of a company. But if a company has interest in us bringing in an idea into the lab and bringing a collaborative set of people around it, then we do that. And sometimes we work with military on certain aspects like that. We'll bring in, not civilians to be thinking about different ways to innovate something that we need in the country. Or we're working with a consumer products company and they want a collaborative effort to think about how, what's the next new metaverse, thing, whatever that is.
Sounds so much fun. I mean, wow, I'd love to just be a fly on the wall, as they say, just to watch this experimentation go on with you at the leadership helm. It sounds so interesting. Now, before I let you go, I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time. I have one last question. You have a book, All That I Am, Now That I Know.
Yeah.
It's 17 life lessons for women entrepreneurs on dreaming big. Can I say the rest of it?
You can.
Failing big and dusting off your ass to do it all over again. I love it. All right, so let's go. One life lesson. Pull one from the book. Let's give one life lesson to the entrepreneurs watching the show.
Believe you can do it. Believe you can step into that CEO role and you can lead your company, your idea to success. I think it's don't let the imposter syndrome get you stopping doing things. So I think that's the one lesson. There's so many certainly lessons around that one, but that one's probably the biggest one.
I love it. Believe in yourself. I mean, you are such a calm, straight shooter. I love it so much. I can see why you resonate for your clients. I mean, they come to you, you've got the labs and you do so much work that you're so passionate about to help companies innovate for impact. It's powerful. Yes. Teresa, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, this has been a great interview. I'm going to bring you back. And thanks so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Yeah, Andy, thank you. It was a pleasure. And I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me. Thank you.